Miami has the Dolphins, their greatest football team. We'll take the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. What's up, everybody? You're back in here, Pro Football Pod. You've got Hulk, you've got Coach hanging out with you. AFC East preview continues. Miami Dolphins. We're not allowed to say fins up anymore, I guess, because that's technically trademark. So go fins. I don't like that one as much. Like, that one's just so basic for me. No. Like, but we've still got this, I guess. So okay, yeah, here we are. Anyways, 500 subscribers. We're giving away a free jersey of your choice, whether it be a custom jersey, a current player. We're wanting to do this. So tell your friends, tell your homies, tell your family, hit that subscribe button, notification button. You don't even have to watch the videos. Just press play, put them on mute, and walk away for about 20 minutes. I don't care. Miami Dolphins, as Dolphins fans, we are excited to really dive into this one. This one might run a little longer than our typical previews, but that's what we're here for. Dolphins finished last season with 11 wins. They've gone over 10 or more wins now in the last couple seasons. They're over/under set in a 9.5. Going to get to that at the end of the episode, so stay tuned. We call that a teaser.
Ooh.
Dolphins, the Dolphins had so many off-season moves, like with guys lost, guys that they signed. Obviously, the big names and the ones that made the headlines, Andrew Van Ginkel walking away, going to Minnesota, back to Brian Flores. They're from that area, so I understand. They've been talking about they wanted to go back home. I get it. Okay. Brandon Jones goes to the Broncos. Cedric Wilson left, but okay, he wasn't really getting what he wanted there and wasn't really working. Christian Wilkins was the big one. Wilkins was a top free agent signing, fan favorite.
Raiders got lucky, man.
Christian Wilkins was one of the ones that loss hurt me more than most players in the last few seasons that we've watched walk away. And the Dolphins have had a problem with re-signing and keeping their homegrown guys. I'm hoping it starts to change with Mike McDaniel, because he didn't draft Van Ginkel or Christian Wilkins or Brandon Jones or Raekwon Davis or Robert Hunt. So I'm looking at it that from that scope. So Robert Hunt moving along hurt. Deshaun Elliott also left. So a lot of pieces on that defense just bounced out.
But then we added
Xavier Howard as well. Got to put it out there. He's still a free agent. What he did for the Dolphins and one of the stars that he's been for us the last few years. Hated to see losing him. I understand it because of what he's put on the field and what his money commanded did not add up.
Been a little bit of a liability the last 2 seasons since Mike got there. And it sucks that his prime was wasted on just so much missed opportunity.
Yep.
But he was. I mean, now we've got Jalen Ramsey. We've got potentially, a top 5, maybe the best corner in football still. And then adding Jordan Poyer, man, we were thinking that Jordan Poyer might come over last year. And I'm kind of glad that he didn't, because he might have a real sour taste in his mouth after working with our defense last year. Almost everybody hated working with our defense last year. I don't know if it was just the old school mentality or what it was, but bringing over Weaver, I'm happy about it. I mean, you bring over anybody from the Ravens coaching staff, and I'm going to be ecstatic. Bring over the guy that's been working right beside John for the last couple of years. That's the best thing that I think you could possibly bring in.
Yeah, I agree. And they signed with the loss of Christian Wilkins. They signed probably 5 or 6 different defensive tackles, bringing in Nelvin Gallimore, T.R. Tart from Tennessee. And these are dudes to where in a rotation, very solid players.
Yes.
And with having Zach Sealer, you have your star defensive tackle.
Yep.
So it's just a matter of a rotation at this point, keeping guys fresh.
Which is what the Ravens do. They don't have 2 or 4. They don't have 4 defensive linemen. They have 8 defensive linemen that are always in at different
tackle
times.
That they just re-signed and paid a bag to. Played the most snaps for him last year, and I believe it was about 60% of their snaps. So They didn't have somebody like Christian Wilkins who was out here playing 80 to 90% of your defensive snaps. Just
Don't need it.
no, and you're especially in Miami when you're playing home games down there with the linebackers that they signed as well with Anthony Walker Jr. and Jordan Brooks. Like, you're building depth so
Yes.
that way these guys can stay fresh on the field. I really like the Kendall Fuller signing. If you're gonna lose Xavier Howard, bring in somebody to be a very solid cornerback too for you.
And young.
Really like
Nice
the
and
signing
young.
with him. And Aaron Brewer as a center, with only being right now, he'll be about 27 years old whenever the season starts. Very athletic center. Like, maybe not the best technical center, but a Shanahan and McDaniel style offense needs a very athletic center. That's why Connor Williams thrived in this offense before he got injured.
Nobody liked him until he started doing really well this past season. One of the things that I talk about whenever I talk about the offense is that Mike McDaniel was the run game coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers for 5 years. His first year, they ranked 24th in the run. Every year after that, they were top 5. That's because of him. It's not because of what players they had at the offensive line. Yeah, they had good players, but they found players that fit their system. They were athletic and able to run the scheme properly. It's not about them being maulers and being able to, Quentin Nelson everybody and just pancake them into the ground. That's not what they need. I think that I'm more and more excited about Mike McDaniel and what he brings to this offense. I know that a lot of people have started talking about his play calling and all these things. This is his 3rd season. He's one of like the 4 or 5 youngest head coaches in the league. I love his development. We've won 10 games the last 2 seasons. We made the playoffs the last.
And you just said it right there. Development. Like, we talk about players and how they need to develop. These coaches are developing. Like, when you go and look at it, 17 head coaches in the league right now are 45 years old or younger.
Yeah.
The average age of the head coach in the NFL right now is 47 years old. Like, it is a young man's league right now.
Mm-hmm.
So with that in tow, unless you're a Sean McVay or a Kyle Shanahan, you don't have a lot of tenure under your belt as a head coach. So you are developing, you're learning from your mistakes. So McDaniel, I'm sure he's heard it from people, from what's being said on Twitter and what's being said out there in the media. Yes, I agree. He bails from the run way too often, even when it's successful. As a run game coordinator, that frustrates me. Like, if you were a run game, how do you just bail from the run? If it's working, if it's gaining
it's
you
a
yardage,
passing league. You gotta.
And I understand that, and again, though, that's one of those to where, as a fan, I'm excited to see if he does develop as a head coach. How does he do in these late game situations? How does he do when he's having to call these unnecessary timeouts, or you're getting dumb delay of game penalties because you're not getting the play in on time, or the play is just not being communicated quickly enough? Like, it's those things to where I am excited to see him grow. He is a very young head coach, and I see him being in Miami for a while. Back-to-back 10-year seasons with playoffs back-to-back. I mean, like, what are we doing here? Let's get into the draft class a little bit.
Well, so there's 4 players that we added between the draft and free agency that have me very excited about our offense taking a step forward. We lost a lot of defensive talent, and we lost a lot to injury, but gaining Odell Beckham, Jonnu Smith, Jalen Wright, and Malik Washington are, I mean, all 4. Even Taj Washington. Like, I don't want to leave him out necessarily.
And Patrick Paul, the offensive tackle.
That guy's a monster.
He's very raw, but for his athletic build and his athletic build, how he looks, you go back and look at him in college, the guy allowed 3 total sacks his entire time in college, like 300 something successful pass blocking snaps. It's insane. He's Teron Armstead. Like, so what better player to learn from than the guy who most guys projected you as?
And I guess
I
he's
agree
been in
it
like
was a
Tehran.
reach. Yeah, he's gone to like Teron's camp and stuff like
Yeah.
that, like the last few years. So there's that relationship. And I agree it was a reach. But we've talked about how we love the Lions and the Ravens and the Steelers, these teams that don't care about a reach if they love the player and how
Yeah.
he fits their team. So if I'm having to trust Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel, I'm okay. I'm going to like it until I'm forced to hate it. Like, I haven't seen the guy play a snap in the NFL yet. Hopefully, he's just insurance for this rookie year. Jalen Wright is the one for me. Chop Robinson as the first round pick. We'll get into him, but Jalen Wright on the offensive side of the ball, I think could be a very, very sneaky pick in Dynasty. I don't know if he'll get drafted necessarily in redraft leagues
I mean,
unless
he's
he's at the
141.
yeah, so you're looking at the very end of your draft there for him.
And he's the third running back off the board for the Dolphins. I mean, the fact is, we have the number 3 overall pick, we have the number 35 overall pick, we have the 19th overall pick, and the 87th overall pick in our skill position players alone. Jonnu Smith being the 23rd tight end and 180 overall is a little bit weird to me as well.
The Dolphins
Waddle,
just haven't featured a tight end in the Mike McDaniel era.
exactly. But Jonnu could be exactly the type of guy. Because even the Shanahan system doesn't really feature the tight end. Whenever we did our 49ers episode, we talked about how they, like, he will get you a 3-catch, 3-touchdown game, but then he'll also get you a freaking 0 on the board. And
Yeah,
like,
you'll get
he'll
one
pancake 3
target
dudes
for
and lead
yeah.
to 3 touchdowns, but like that doesn't mean anything to fantasy.
Now, for me, see, I don't know how much blocking value Johnny's going to bring in for you. So I'm looking at him more of, okay, here's a possible chess piece for you. How are you going to use him in your offense?
Red zone threat.
Chop Robinson, for me, the first round pick that the Dolphins took. At the time, I was very irritated because I saw Graham Barton sitting there and just, I know how much work this offensive line
And
needed.
Johnny Newton. Oh.
And so for me, but when you look at it and you see the fact that, okay, they also brought in Shaq Barrett, how healthy are Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb going to be and when?
Yes.
So if you're looking at 6, 7, 8 weeks into the season before you're getting both of them back fully healthy, I understand it. Like, you're having to build a stable of pass rushers here from something and from somewhere. Like, I do get it.
I mean,
and
him and
when I
Shaq
look
are
at
going to
it,
be the starting in week 1. It'll be Shaq Barrett and Chop Robinson starting. Like, there's nobody else really. It's not that there's nobody else on our team, but like we're not likely going to have Jalen Phillips back. He might be able to play through.
no,
training
I
camp.
mean, when you pull up the depth chart, you've got Chop Robinson and Shaq Barrett sitting there at the 2 spot. Mohamed Kamara, the edge rusher they took in the 5th with his athletic profile, he's going to get some work early on. And my whole thing is when Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb do come back, the Dolphins have the potential to have the best pass rush rotation in the entire NFL.
Which in the fourth
Just
quarter
with
is
the
what
athletic
you need.
profiles alone.
Third and fourth quarter, it's going to be hard for people playing
Yeah.
in Miami. It's going to be very, very difficult. Going back to the ADPs, 2 is the 14th quarterback off the board, 96th overall. Whenever we talked about the Jets, Rodgers was the 19th quarterback off the board, 117 overall. It's the same conversation for me. I can't believe that what is potentially going to be the best offense in football, those 2 teams have the potential to be the best offense in football. And because their quarterback isn't going to get 10 rushing touchdowns in a year, they're not projected as a top 10 quarterback is mind-blowing to me. A couple of the leagues that I won last year, I won off of the back of Tua. Like, the fact that I made it to the playoffs was because I was able to get him in the 10th or 11th round. And I was able to stack up value in all of my other positions, I'm absolutely doing the same thing. I'm going to draft Tua if he's going to just be there for me in almost the 10th round. It doesn't make any sense to me. The one that I think is really scary is Devon Achane at running back 9, 19th overall. I think that's a bit rushed. Raheem Mostert was the running back one for this team and had 18 touchdowns last year. I know that
Now,
he's another year older, but bro, like they don't not like Raheem.
I
They
will
love
say,
him, and they re-signed him this year.
I will, s- I do agree, but I will say once Achan started like popping, he was getting the start over Mostert.
Yeah,
Like Achan was coming in as
but the
RB1.
injuries,
Now
man,
I do
that's
agree. I
risky.
think him in the second round there potentially being your RB1, that is very rich for me. And that's saying completely knowing if he gives you 14, 15 games of the season,
He could
he
be the RB1.
probably does finish his RB1 by a good margin. I'm one of those, like, I don't risk it for the biscuit. Like, give me my consistency, especially at the running back position. If it were a
Exactly.
wide receiver, okay, a little more boomer bust I can get because I can replace that Moneyball style with a couple other guys if need to.
And taking Raheem in the 8th round means that he's likely your second or third running back. You could
Yes,
draft
the
two other
value
solid running
is
backs,
there.
and then by week 10, if Raheem's the starter because Achan got hurt, even Jalen Wright, I mean, 14th round,
Jalen
this guy
Wright's the
could.
one I was going to say I think I'm targeting the most because more than likely, if I've already got my first two or three running backs, I don't know if I want to play the Achan Mostert game,
Yep.
but I will take a flyer on Jalen Wright and let him sit there and wait for somebody to get hurt because all of these running backs on the Dolphins hit IR at some point last year. It's probably a good bet that one or two of them are going to get hurt at some point this year. We've also seen McDaniel as a run game coordinator is completely fine with playing multiple running backs within the game and putting them both out there on the field at the same time. We saw plenty of sets last season where Mostert and Achan were on the field at the same time.
I think that Jalen Wright is going to have, of all of the dynasty rookie drafts that are going to be going on, because of Achan being a second year player and being so explosive last year, people are going to sleep on Jalen Wright. And I think that he's going to have massive, massive value of everybody else that the Dolphins picked up this offseason. He's not necessarily this year's
If you
going to be
see
his year.
Jalen Wright get drafted earlier than the 14th or 13th round in your league, it was probably a Dolphins fan.
Oh, it definitely was. But
Like,
I'm saying even like in the third or fourth round of a rookie draft, I'm going for Jalen Wright.
yeah, especially if you already feel good about most of your roster, you feel pretty
Yeah,
good about the first two rookies you took. Absolutely, I'm taking a flyer on Jalen Wright.
yeah.
And going back to the whole Tua thing with being the 14th quarterback taken, I want to get into a few of the guys ahead of him that I understand, and then the ones that it's like, okay, what the fuck? Excuse my French. Josh Allen, I get it.
Yep.
Jalen Hurts, I get it.
Yep.
Patrick Mahomes, I get it.
Yep.
Lamar Jackson, I get
Yep.
it. CJ Stroud, I get it. Anthony Richardson, I get it. When he was on the
Anthony
field,
Richardson is the last one though for me because he was putting up 20 points a game very, very easily off of his legs and his arm. He wasn't just running the ball like Lamar was his first season or two. He was absolutely making plays with his arm too.
I agree. Joe Burrow,
It's a
okay,
question for me.
I get it.
He doesn't have a
But
better offense.
it's one of those to where it's like, all right, I'm not going to argue you too much. Okay, Jordan Love.
No.
That's when I really start drawing the quit. Now he showed it to me last year.
He doesn't have
I
a
can
better offense though.
understand the weight. Okay, Jordan Love to pick your flavor. Okay, Dak, Kyler,
Nope.
and Brock Purdy.
Nope.
Tua has actually moved up currently with the rankings that I'm looking at versus when I did these notes here. He has jumped Justin Herbert, and Jared Goff. So, because those were two guys I absolutely had questions with. Brock Purdy, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott.
Brock Purdy has a better offense than Tua. All the other guys that we just named aren't surrounded by more talent than, I mean, Tyreek Hill, Jalen
Tua
Waddle.
led the league in passing yards last year.
Efficiency.
I still think it's the whole injury question with Tua. People are, oh, well, you played all 17 last year.
He
Show it
knows
to
judo
me
now.
again. All I'm saying is if you're able to come out and in the 4th or 5th round, you pick up CJ Stroud or Anthony Richardson, and then you pick up Tua as your quarterback too, you have no worries at quarterback for your fantasy roster.
Nope. In a super flex, I think that he's going to be the best second quarterback taken by teams. I think he's going to be much, much better than Herbert and Goff and all these other guys that are going to be taken in that same tier. He's going to absolutely be a top 8 quarterback in fantasy this year. Like, there's no question to it. He's going to increase his touchdown count. He's going to decrease his interceptions. He's going to do better. I think that he's between him and Rodgers at 14 and 19, like those two guys are the two guys I'm not taking a quarterback early because of the way that everyone's valuing the position right now. I'm letting all of these people take all these guys so I can stack up my wide receivers and running backs in the first 8 to 10 rounds, and then I'm going to just take my quarterback cuz the pick is going to be there waiting for you. So trust. Don't take a quarterback early this
last
season.
year, Tua finished as quarterback 9.
Yep.
Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, which, okay, the Dak was throwing like crazy. Lamar Jackson, got it, won MVP. Jordan Love, like I said, that's why, okay, I kind of see it. Dude was balling. 4,100 yards, 32 touchdowns, 11 picks. Brock Purdy, like you mentioned, great offense. Jared Goff, great offensive play caller, tons of weapons. Okay. Patrick Mahomes. That list, based on what I saw last year, makes sense. Now, when you throw in the guys that were going ahead of him on what we were showing here, it does, for the most part, kind of add up. Like, whenever, except for the fact of Joe Burrow, Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud. Like, those are the 3, and Kyler Murray. Those are the 4 guys that are ahead of him right now that did not finish ahead of him last year because of rookie curve and injuries. Burrow, Richardson, and Murray were all injured.
He had 30 passing touchdowns last year. I know that people are going to go after me in the comments, but the likelihood of him getting 40 plus touchdowns is super high. He's now another year into the system. They're not going to be running the ball as often. They had 18 rushing touchdowns just to Raheem Mostert. One player had over half of his touchdowns. Those all could have, I mean, half of those could have easily been Tua's touchdowns. And if Achane is the RB1, then Achane, whenever we beat the Broncos by 70 points, had 3 receiving touchdowns for 60 yards.
Achane missed half the season and still finished and is a top 10 running back for the year.
Yeah.
That's how insane his production was. But going back, it is very risky for me to take Devon Achane where he's going with the availability of guys around you. So looking at it, if you were to pass on Devon Achane, you're looking at Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Rashad White, Isaiah Pacheco, James Cook. Safe consistency-wise, Kenneth Walker, Joe Mixon. I feel better about all of those guys than Devon Achane. As a fan, obviously, I want to see him healthy, just absolutely destroy the league. Just go for 1,800 rushing yards right off the pop.
And then I'll take him in the Breece Hall position next year. I'll take him as the RB2 next year if this year he shows us what he's capable of.
I think if Devon Achane finishes as a top 5, top 10 running back this year, I think he goes easily top 3 overall next year.
Now, before we put in another 30-minute episode on just the Dolphins, over under 9.5. I mean, I'm easily going over. I just think that they have improved on their offense. They've improved on their defense. Last year, the Dolphins had one game where they had all 5 of their offensive linemen healthy, and they put up 70 points. They lost both of their defensive ends. 3 of their top defensive ends, if you include Van Ginkel, before week 15. Like, they had a lot of adversity last year and were still able to squeeze out 11 wins. I think that they're absolutely one of the best teams in the AFC. They are the best team in the AFC East, and that's not fandom. It's just facts. Like, you look at these rosters, the only defense that's better than them in this division is the Jets. The Jets have a better defense, but their offense is disgusting. Nobody should be able to have as much speed as we have. We have the 5 fastest players in the league. We have, of like the top 10, we have at least the 5. Like, and probably out of the top 7, we have the 5 fastest.
Yeah. And I'll be the first to say, like, going through, especially after the draft, I was one of those, like, what are we doing? What are the Dolphins doing here? Are they better? Looking back at it, I truly do believe the Dolphins are a better team now than they were at this point last year.
Absolutely.
Specifically, the depth, and which is what we've seen with those injuries that you spoke of. The main problem is, yeah, you have the next man up mentality, but if that next man up don't necessarily have what you need to get the job done, he's just a body. So I do like what they did. I'm going over for the simple fact of they've won 10 games each of the last 2 seasons, and I don't see a reason they don't do it again this year.
Exactly. I mean,
like, I don't see them regressing. And for the first time in like 5 years, the Dolphins have a bottom 10 strength of schedule. They have one of the easiest schedules in the league.
Look what Philly did.
For the first time in forever. Now, obviously, that will change throughout the year as teams get injured and the times you play these teams and who you have, who they have. All of that will change. But based right now, preseason, the Dolphins the last few years have had a top 5 toughest schedule year in and year out. So that to me also helps them. It's the last 6 weeks for the Dolphins where you've got at Green Bay, at home versus the Jets, at Houston versus San Francisco, at Cleveland, at New York. Like, that stretch right there is almost that's going to tell you a lot about this Dolphins team and what they're able to do for you in the playoffs. If they struggle through that stretch, I absolutely expect a first round exit again.
Yeah. I think that if they can figure it out, though, figure out how to play in adverse conditions, I mean, they could be one of the best football teams in football. And you're going to hear us say that on more than just the Dolphins episode. If you guys stay tuned and watch the rest of our episodes, we're very high on a lot of teams. The Dolphins are a team that a lot of people are very high on. People have been hating on them the last couple of years, and that's turned around quite a bit, especially since last season.
The media loves to hate on the Dolphins because Dolphins fans on Twitter are very passionate and engaging. So it's easy clicks, it's easy shares, it's easy views on videos. Like, that is why they do it. But Dolphins fans, we're here with you. We know what you're about. You understand what we're going through. If you're still here with us, hit that subscribe button, hit that noti button. 500 subscribers, free jersey to somebody. We're begging. We're trying to. We want to do it for you. Go Fins, everybody. We love you. Peace out. PulseRoastTea.com is the sponsor.